we do have one more trade, and I feel like this trade is worse somehow in the Miles Bridges trade. And this one is for Kyle Kuzma, so we'll go over it real quick. So again, you'd be trading Tim Hardaway Jr., Simone Fontecchio, a 2025 second-round pick via Toronto, and a 2027 second and a 2028 second via Miami for Kyle Kuzma. Zay, I'll let you go first with this one. Like, what do you think of a trade for Kyle Kuzma? Because I know the Wizards have been really strong about their asking price of what they want. I think at one point it was 3 firsts, then it was 2 seconds. Now it's a first. Maybe it's just a couple of seconds. So, like, what do you kind of think of Kyle Kuzma as a fit on this team?
Similar to how I feel about Brandon Ingram. He's an all right defender. He's not an amazing one, and his play style, like his pace of playing, is way too similar to Cade for me, for him to be a second option for this team. Like, he's a little more slow. He needs a little more time to get to the basket than I would like if we're trading for a second option in this year. Also, he's just developing bad habits in Washington, as are a lot of those guys. Like, it's just kind of a place where people are getting traded and then they just start trying things they haven't ever tried in their careers, and their shot diet gets worse. Similar to like Miles Bridges this year in Charlotte. Like, Kuzma's shot diet has just continuously just gotten worse over the years. And I also don't want to send out those second round picks for a guy like Kuzma, because long term, when we're talking about contention with this team, Kuzma probably wouldn't even be around.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, and I think, you know, both of these trades have a similar theme of, you know, guys from Michigan, specifically Flint, that, you know, get to come home, which as a storyline I'm sure is great. But in reality, like, they're both also similar in terms of they would have been great Pistons like 2 or 3 years ago. In 2025, I just don't think Kyle Kuzma is a great fit for the Pistons. And, you know, we talked about ball stoppage earlier. Like, I feel like that would be a major issue upon arrival for Kyle Kuzma's, you know, ball stoppage, because he's not really known for being the guy that's going to make the extra pass. And I feel like Kyle Kuzma as well, like, you're from Flint, right? Like, he does a lot of good things for Flint, but at the same time, it would feel so weird if the infamous "you just don't want to be that team" guy ended up suiting up for the Pistons exactly a year later. I mean, like, even ESPN used that tweet with the Cade interview just a couple days ago. So it'd be really, really weird. And I'm so certain that tweet is definitely like hung up somewhere in the Pistons Performance Center as like some form of motivation. So it'd be really weird if Kyle Kuzma walked through those doors and saw his own tweet hung up or something like that. Because that's something like the Pistons players oftentimes online are not going to come out and like start anything or say much. That doesn't mean they don't see it.
Yeah.
You know, like, it's just one of those things. And like, he became kind of the face of, you know, making fun of the Pistons during the streak, and it'd just be a really weird thing to see him come through and play for them. But just in terms of the on the court aspect, again, like, I feel like the pace of play is a thing. I think whoever you get, like, if they're going to be, you know, ball dominant, you don't want them to slow the offense down even more, especially with no Ivy. And I also just feel like his shooting is nowhere near where it should be. And if you're looking to replace someone like Tim Hardaway, and even Fontecchio, like, he's been streaky, but like Kyle Kuzma, I could be wrong, but I want to say this is his worst shooting season, like in recent memory, where he's not making the shots that he used to, even like in LA, right? Like, I don't think this is the same Kyle Kuzma that, you know, people have in their minds, like the Kyle Kuzma who gamed it against the Pistons a few years ago and was waving to the crowd. Like, it's just not the same guy anymore. I think there's a fit for him somewhere, but I do think there's a thing of habits as well. Like, I don't know if Washington's really been the best environment for him. Like, I think him and Jordan Poole are interesting to see, because people associate Jordan Poole with shot chucking and, you know, like the bad habits and things like that. But this has been a great year for Jordan Poole in Washington. Kyle Kuzma's gone. The team was there was a lot of talk amongst like the NBA community of like, oh, the Washington Wizards are actually kind of fun to watch when it was Poole and the young guys, and then Kuzma came back and they just went on an insane losing skid. So I don't see the value in him, and let alone it being 2 rotation players and 3 second-round picks.
Yeah, you weren't kidding. Just for curiosity, I wanted to pull up his stats. So he's shooting a whopping 26% from 3 when he's been, league average around, 33 to 35%. And he went from 22 points a game his last 2 seasons to 14 points a game. Yeah, I'm good. Yeah. I'm good, man.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I feel like a lot of people just haven't really been paying attention to how bad he has been in Washington this year. Like, there's just no world where Kyle Kuzma is worth Tim Hardaway Fontecchio in 3 seconds. Like, if anything, you should be getting an asset in return. His opportunity to really leave Washington while leaving as a positive, asset was with Dallas last year, and he turned that down. So I can't see really a Kyle Kuzma trade that lands Washington any positive value.
Yeah, I didn't know he was doing that bad until I looked up his numbers. Those are gruesome, man. Like, wow, that's really bad.
I guess I could think. I just want to say something. I mean, a lot of guys wrote off Tim Hardaway. We're talking about him in trades, and we don't want to move him. But when we made that trade, a lot of people were mad about that deal because his production had taken a hit. But I think the difference between Tim Hardaway's production taking a hit and Kyle Kuzma's production taking a hit is that, or Miles Bridges even, is that Charlotte and Washington are, they're tanking. Their production should be going up, if anything, because they're playing for nothing. Versus a guy like Tim Hardaway, his game it got to the point where, they had guys who could, fill the role better. Tim started getting cold in the playoffs. He barely played in the finals. But that's a finals team. So when you bring a guy from a finals team to the Pistons, their production will go back up. But if you bring a guy from Charlotte or Washington, they're just going to practice the same habits.
Yeah, I mean, I think ever since he got traded from LA, the way in which he plays, I think is very ISO, me ball, not team basketball, where it will translate to wins. Putting up 20 points a game is putting up 20 points a game, but you have to kind of look at what team they're on and how much they're actually winning. And they're kind of empty stats at the end of the day. But I had no idea he fell off a cliff like that, Zariq. Thanks for pointing that out. Because I had no idea. I did not go down the Washington rabbit hole, especially with the Lions getting smacked by the Commanders yesterday. I didn't want to look up more Washington stuff.
That's fair. Yeah, I just weirdly I found myself on Wizards Twitter at some point earlier this season, and I just kind of took a look, and I was looking at his stats, and I was like, Jesus. This is not the same Kyle Kuzma, even from the rookie year where they were getting Jason Tatum, comparisons. I just it's not the same guy, and maybe he has some injury that's still bothering him or something. But regardless, the ball stoppage, the bad shot selection, those are things you don't really have to chalk up to injury.